Welcome back into the Pick and Roll NBA podcast with Jet and Sap, presented by Full Press Coverage. We have had two fantastic games in a row now in the NBA Finals, as the Bucks have seized a 3-2 lead after being down in this series 0-2. They are a very resilient team, Sap, and we had a really, really exciting finish to the end of Game 5, and now the Bucks are looking to put it away tomorrow on their home court. It was just the fourth quarter was just a really, really exciting, fascinating display of momentum swing, Sap, especially the last like 3 minutes of that game. What were your just thoughts coming out of that?
Yeah, Middleton hit a three to put Milwaukee up by 10 with 3:25 left. At that point, you're like, okay, the game's over. Then Phoenix worked their way back. Chris Paul was outstanding in the fourth quarter. He wasn't that great in the first three quarters. Phoenix had an opportunity to win the game. They've got the ball down one, and Devin Booker channeled Kobe Bryant, unfortunately, bad Kobe, where he went 1-on-5 rather than maybe pulling up for a jump shot at the free throw line or getting the ball in Chris Paul's hands. Now, that's what I would have done first. Get it into your point guard's hands. Chris Paul was really cooking at that moment, whether he's going to score or set up somebody. He's got those two options, which Devin Booker doesn't generally have. Booker is a scorer, whereas Chris Paul's a facilitator and a scorer. So I thought the ball should have been in Chris Paul's hands. Phoenix did have a timeout. Should have they called a timeout? Oftentimes, coaches don't want to do that because they don't want the other team to set up their defense. But hey, give Chris Middleton, Drew Holiday, and Giannis just incredible credit because they were all on their A game on Saturday night and winning Game 5. Fantastic game. Talk about the ebbs and flows, like you mentioned, Jed. It was 37-21 in favor of Phoenix after the first quarter. It looked like they were going to just blow them out and take control of the series. And then over the next 2 quarters and 3 minutes, Milwaukee outscored Phoenix 87-57. Think about that. They outscored them by 30 points. Their offense never looked better. And I always look at Milwaukee as oftentimes an offense by accident. You know, they're not a great three-point shooting team. They don't really flow together at times. It's more they use their size, athletic ability. Well, they were hitting all their outside shots on Saturday night, whether it be Drew Holiday or Chris Middleton. Giannis was doing his thing. I think Pat Connaughton gave them quality minutes. Bobby Portis hit a couple of threes, did his job on the boards. It was a complete team effort by Milwaukee, and now they're in control of the series. I wouldn't say it's over. I didn't think it was over when Phoenix was up 2-0, and I don't think it's over right now because, again, I think these are flawed teams, and there's the opportunity there for Phoenix to try to even this series up on Tuesday night in Milwaukee. If not, the season's over and the Bucks win their first championship in 50 years. But that was a fascinating game, and I thought Game 4 was also good. The game in Milwaukee where Phoenix had a 9-point lead early in the fourth quarter, and Milwaukee was very resilient. Jet, the Bucks were down 2-0 against the Nets, came back and won that series. They lost the first game in the Eastern Conference Finals to Atlanta, came back and won that series. They were down 2-0 in this series, and now they're up 3-2. So they are the comeback team of this NBA
Oh, I see what
playoffs.
you
You like
did
that
there.
one? The
I do
Milwaukee
see what you did
comebacks.
there.
Yes,
Uh,
I like that.
Sap, this game was almost like a micro version of the series, right?
Mm-hmm.
Phoenix goes up big to start the game, goes up
Yep.
16. Phoenix went up 2-0 in the series. Milwaukee fought back, and now they're up 3-2. So sort of like the series can kind of be explained in this game. And yeah, Phoenix came out and they look like, okay, we lost 2 games in Milwaukee, but we're not effing around anymore. They look
Right.
like they came out with a mission. And Milwaukee was able to withstand the tide and be able to sort of play their game thereafter. The first quarter obviously was not good, but it shows in the NBA a 16-point lead means absolutely nothing. It might as well be a 4-point lead. It really, especially if it's
Mm-hmm.
early in a game, it's
Yep.
meaningless. So there's a reason there's 4 quarters of a game, and that's what Milwaukee showed, Sap. And if you look at all the numbers in this game, just sort of breaking it down, outside of the final score, 123-119, you're kind of like, how the hell did Milwaukee win this game? Phoenix had less turnovers than Milwaukee. The rebounding battle was basically even. Milwaukee had 2 more rebounds than Phoenix. Free throw shooting, Milwaukee shot about 53% from the line. Phoenix shot 90% from the line. 3-point shooting, Phoenix shot 68%, Milwaukee shot 50%. So all those numbers would indicate that Phoenix won the game, but it was ultimately Milwaukee who came out on top, Sap.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to just push back on the free throws. And I talked about this with you a week ago that Milwaukee's free throw shooting is porous and Phoenix's is outstanding. The only difference is Milwaukee goes to the line more than Phoenix does. Phoenix is
Yes.
a jump shooting team. Milwaukee is physical, aggressive, takes
6
it
more
to the
attempts for
basket.
Milwaukee.
And that's generally what happens in all of these games because Giannis gets to the free throw line a lot, doesn't necessarily hit his free throws, but he does get there. And I was listening to Nick Wright this morning, and I guess, great minds think alike because he
Waste
talked
of
about,
time.
well, he talked about something that I mentioned a week ago that like teams don't generally lose big games because of poor free throw shooting. And he put forth that if the Bucks win this series, which now they're up 3-2, 14 of the last 22 champions would have had as their best player Shaquille O'Neal, LeBron James, Tim Duncan, and now Giannis. What do those four guys have in common? Not great free throw shooters. Because if you get to the line more, even if you shoot a lesser percentage, it's still better than not getting there. You see what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
Phoenix shoots at a high percentage, but they just don't get to the line as often as Milwaukee. And Nick Wright ended his segment with, Bill Russell, 53% free throw shooter. That really cramped his winning style, didn't it? He only won 11 championships in 13 years. So I agree with that. Although Milwaukee's a poor free throw shooting team, mostly because of Giannis, they get to the line so much more than Phoenix. The way I look at this series, Jet, and I'm going to do a cross sport reference.
Okay.
Let me bring up, I know your favorite sport is hockey, especially
Yes.
breaking down all the great goaltenders.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it kind of reminds me a little bit of the Stanley Cup final 2 years ago when the Bruins lost to the St. Louis Blues in 7 games. And you just remember the Blues were the bigger, more physical team. And I think eventually they just wore down the Bruins to the point by game 7, the Bruins had nothing left. I'm starting to get the same feeling in this series. You look at the starting lineups of these two teams, Milwaukee's starting 5 on average is 2 inches taller and 25 pounds heavier. Much bigger, more physical team. I think they're wearing down the likes of Chris Paul, DeAndre Ayton, even Jay Crowder, Mikal Bridges, who are really small for the positions they play. It just appears that size matters in these finals, as they did a year ago. The Lakers, the bigger, more physical team than Miami. And the year before that, Toronto, the bigger, more physical team than Golden State. So although we talk about all these great three-point shooters and that it's a finesse game and it's not a physical game, well, we could be looking at the third straight championship team being crowned primarily because they're just bigger, more physical than the team they beat.
Yeah, I could see that too, and I've liked the way Milwaukee has constructed their roster, and I've liked the way they constructed their roster the past couple of years too. This just is the best version of what they've had, and they've
Mhm.
gotten some breaks this year too with injuries for other teams, specifically Brooklyn. So yeah, I totally agree with you, Sap. I think that certainly played a factor in it as well. Is that Milwaukee is a more physical team? They're also taller and longer.
Mhm.
I mean we've seen that, and they're both teams are very good defensively. Milwaukee plays just a more physical defensive game, and it's working. And you saw the two key plays in the past 2 games have been defensive plays: a block
Mhm.
from Giannis and a steal from Drew Holiday. And I tweeted out, Holiday steals the ball. No one seemed to get it. I was trying to invoke Johnny Most, saying Havlicek stole the ball because I thought it was
I got it.
similarly impactful play. But that's my lot in life, Sap. I just know more than most people. I
You
appreciate
do.
that you did get it. So
I would have went
yeah,
with Bird steals the ball, feeds DJ. The Celtics take the lead over the
yeah, that could
Pistons.
work. Feeds
That
Giannis,
works too good. That's even more,
who slams it
more
in
present.
instead of lays it up and in. More exciting for an alley oop than a layup
Oh
from. But
man,
by the way, Sap, technically that wasn't the right basketball play, correct? You should have just dribbled the ball out.
yeah, you maybe want to kill some clock. I mean, if that pass goes astray, then all of a sudden it's still a 1 point game and Phoenix has the ball. Although I think I could hit Giannis on an alley oop. I mean, his talk about catch radius. We talk about great wide receivers in football, or say Rob Gronkowski, the greatest tight end ever. They have this huge catch radius. Who has a bigger catch radius than Giannis? I mean, just
Yeah,
throw the
that's
thing up
true.
near the backboard. He's going to go up there and get it. And I thought it was a silly foul on the part of Chris Paul. You're not going to make any play there. Let him have his dunk. Now it's a 3 point game. You get the ball back with some time to maybe tie the game up. Instead, Giannis goes to the free throw line, misses, but then they get the rebound. Middleton gets fouled and hits 1 of 2. Ball game is over. It was a stupid foul by Chris Paul. I mean, he's 5'11". Giannis is 6'11". There's nothing he was going to do to stop him. But you're right. It probably would have made more sense if Middleton backed it out and tried to kill more clock or just move the ball around. The only problem with that is if the ball gets into the hands of Giannis, then he's going to get fouled. And now you're putting him at the line with only a 1-point lead. And I'm sure I'm turning everybody off by saying Giannis instead of Giannis, because that's the correct way to say his name. And
Yes,
I'm
no,
going to
that's
be
very
very
good.
adamant about this. You know,
Oh, maybe you'll get it to catch on, Sep. I am
I
not going to be a convert. I'm
no,
at this
I'm
point.
working on it.
I'll try. Maybe I'll get it. I'll get it
Um,
once. But I,
Giannis.
I think part of why Holiday ended up passing that, and the coach in me was going, "What is he doing?" And I'm sure Budenholzer reacted similarly until the alley oop went in. Is because the Bucks, I think, they know they're such a piss poor free throw shooting team.
Right.
They don't want to get into that free throw shooting game at the end. Even Middleton, who's a very good free throw shooter, missed a
Right.
big one at the end of the game. So I think that's their mindset is let's just put the ball in the basket anywhere but from the free throw line, and we'll feel a lot better about it. So yeah, it was the last 3 minutes. Sap was just momentum shifting on a dime,
Mhm.
and free throws, I get what you're saying and what the dummy Nick Wright had to say, in that, yeah, maybe it doesn't matter if you go to the line a lot, but had Devin Booker not played hero ball and Phoenix was able to convert there, all the talk would be about Giannis's
Sure.
crappy free throw shooting, and that he almost single-handedly blew the game for Milwaukee. And I don't want to give him, a lot of crap, because he did have 32 points, 6 assists, 9 rebounds, and was for the most part fantastic. But he's been pretty good at the line this series. For him, 4 of 11 is trash. I mean, that's awful. And he missed some biggies. He missed 3 in a row, Sap, down the
Mhm.
stretch. So yes, getting to the line is more important, and getting the line and missing is better than not getting to the line at all. But he's got to do better than missing 3 in a row and going 4 of 11 from the line. They very easily could be on the other end of this, Sap, where they're fighting for their lives tomorrow instead of trying to win a championship.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, a player of that caliber should hit 70% of his free throws, which is generally what he does. It's just in the postseason, it's dipped way below that. Right now in the finals, it's at 59%, which is still not very good. He's shooting 61% from the floor, which is pretty amazing. Of course, most of his baskets come within the restricted area, within 3 feet. He's dunking the ball. He's getting those alley oops, and he's not forcing the offense, which I think is really bright. He's only taken 12 3-pointers so far in the finals. He's 2 of 12, which would lead me to believe that he shouldn't take any
That
3-pointers.
means
He's just
he's
not a good
taken
3-point
12 too
shooter.
many. Yeah.
12 too many. He's just not. And again, his shot is not that ugly looking. It's just that it seems like he doesn't follow through enough, or whatever the case may be. Now at the free throw line, that's in his head, especially on the road where you hear, 1, 2, 3, all the way up to 10, and he's still going through the motions before he shoots. And then you got the dude Phoenix with the $100 bills
Yeah, that
counting
was
them out.
something.
Yeah, they've got quite the array of fans there in Phoenix, don't they? Some of them look like they're going to Mardi Gras, not going to a basketball game. But yeah, no, it's still a problem. Of course it is, and 70% is acceptable, but when you go 4 for 11, that could be the difference between winning and losing a game. So Phoenix didn't make them pay for that, because Phoenix went to sleep uh, for great portions of that game. And I'm going to have to lay some of the blame on my man Monty Williams, who I love as a coach. They got off to that great lead, 37-21 after the first quarter. At that point, if you're the coach, sometimes get away from your comfort zone and leave Devin Booker on the floor for the early part of the second quarter. Devin Booker is 24 years old, is a great athlete, appears to be in phenomenal shape. Let him stay out there, because now you can maybe build that lead up to 20, 24 points. Remember Dallas against the Clippers, game 3, after Dallas won the first 2 games in LA? They built this huge lead, and then they took Luka out, and next thing you know, the Clippers got back in the game. Keep them out there as long as you can to build that lead, rather than saying, well, I need to give him 4 or 6 minutes off now, and then we'll bring him in. And next thing you know, it's a ball game. They cut it all the way down to 3 quickly while Booker was on the bench. Look, Booker played 42 minutes the other night. When he was on the court, Phoenix was plus 12. He sat out 6 minutes. In those 6 minutes, they were minus 16. So obviously he's a big key for the Phoenix Suns, not exactly breaking news. So some of those things, I think that coaches sometimes have to look at it and stray away from the norm. This is the NBA Finals. We've got a couple of days between games 5 and 6. if you have to play Booker the full 48, go for it. Maybe rest a little bit on defense, whatever the case may be. But he had to be on the floor there because he was really their only option for a long period of time. Chris Paul didn't really start forcing things until the fourth quarter. He's going to have to be better in game 6 and maybe, force the action a little bit more. I know Isaiah Thomas on the NBA Network was saying he wants Chris Paul, who is kind of like his, I don't know what their relationship is, but Chris Paul is the closest thing I've seen to Isaiah Thomas. But his suggestion was, be a little bit more risk taking out there rather than careful. And maybe Chris Paul, because he had 15 turnovers in
Right.
games 2, 3, and 4, is now trying to play it cautious. Well, sometimes you got to find that happy medium and still force things a little bit to try to expand that lead. So I think Monty Williams deserves some blame for that. And again, this is a coach I love, but I think if you've got a 16-point lead, don't pull back and say, okay, it's time to put Booker and DeAndre Ayton on the bench. He put them on the bench together. Jed, if you're coaching a team and you have 3 superstars, right, which both of these teams have, whether they're big threes or not, they have each have 3 high-level players. I wouldn't want to have 2 on the bench at the same time. You can work it where you always have 2 of your top 3 players on the court at a
Yeah,
given
not in the
time, right? So
finals. In the regular
not in the
season,
final
yeah,
regular
not in the
season, who cares?
finals.
If you can go sit them all down if you want. There's load management and all that fun stuff. Although these are 2 teams that didn't practice load management this year, and maybe there's good karma there. Take the regular season seriously, you get to the finals. But yeah, in the finals, Chris Paul has to be on the floor um, with Aiton if Booker's out, and all of those combinations. Don't have 2 of them sitting on the bench and just one out there, because now you got Chris Paul, who, as great as he is, he's 5'11", he needs some help, and he's got other guys out there that aren't Devin Booker. So you could see that all of a sudden Milwaukee got back into it, and Milwaukee got back into it with Giannis on the bench as well. Their offense seemed to flow just fine, and next thing you know, Drew Holiday, who was god awful in game 4, was fantastic in game 5, and that was the difference.
Yeah, he was terrible from the floor. He was terrible offensively in game 4. He's still
Right.
very, very effective defensively.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, listen, Milwaukee's invested in 3 players here, and they've all shown up, and they showed up in this box score. Giannis,
Mm-hmm.
32 points, 29 for Middleton, 27 and 13 assists for Drew Holiday. So, you got to give credit to the front office of Milwaukee in that the way that they allocated their salary cap is paying off right now, and that big 3 has worked so far. And Drew Holiday obviously made the play of the game with that strip of Devin
Mm-hmm.
Booker. And Middleton has won them a game too, with him being fantastic from the floor. I think it was, what was it, game 3, Sep, where he went toe to toe with Booker and put up 40 some odd points.
Game
So
4, both he and Booker had 40
that was
plus,
game 4.
which is
Okay.
amazing. We've had 5 40-point games in this finals: 2 by Giannis, 2 by Booker, and 1 by Middleton. That's pretty damn impressive. And Middleton and Booker, as you said, went head to head.
Yeah, so I mean, those guys that they've allocated the bulk of their salary cap to are living up to their lofty contracts, and then you got enough out of Lopez, and you got what you usually get out of Tucker, which is good defense and an interesting stat line that I always love to look at: 3 points, 5 fouls, 1 rebound, 1 assist, 1 steal in 24 minutes. Took 2 shots, one of them was a 3. He hit it. And then Connaughton was big off the bench for them too,
Yep.
especially from 3. So the only guy who had no business playing is Jeff Teague. Is like the
Man.
Walking Dead out there. I don't, if he gets a ring, which he's in pretty prime position for right now, it's got to be one of the worst individual campaigns to earn a championship ring this season from him. I mean, he gives you absolutely nothing on the court, and I saw him firsthand a lot, and I know you did too when he was on the Celtics, and then how he's playing 8 minutes in a finals game is beyond me.
He's washed at this point, right? I
Oh
mean,
my god.
Jeff T could have a ring, but Charles Barkley and Karl Malone, no rings. I mean, that's kind of unfortunate for them and fortunate for Jeff Teague. Yeah, and also Bobby Portis, I think, was outstanding the other night. He had a couple of threes he hit. He had 9 rebounds. He brings an edge too. I mean,
He does.
watch the 2 teams, and the physicality of Milwaukee is amazing. And you talked about it all year that you think they're the best defensive team in the league, and I agree with you, because they really never put anybody out there who is a liability defensively, right? I mean, they can all play defense. They play well together. Even that final possession by Phoenix when Booker decided instead of pulling up from 15 that he was going to get into the paint, they had 5 defenders around him,
Yeah,
but
team
really
defense.
no one was open. It was almost like they had everything covered. I mean, Booker should have kicked it back out to Chris Paul. There was plenty of time left. Let Chris Paul decide what's going to happen, whether he takes the shot or sets up Booker or gets Mikal Bridges open, or whoever.
Well, Sap, that's inexperience too. This is his first
Sure,
playoffs, let alone
he's
his first
24.
his
Yeah.
first finals. And at that
Yep.
point, I think he was feeling like, okay, it's inevitable. We're on our home court.
Right.
Milwaukee's melting down. We're gonna win this game. I'm gonna be the guy to do it. And he made a mistake. And Drew Holiday, being the elite defender he is, capitalized on it. But yeah, Milwaukee's team defense deserves a lot of credit because they basically cut him completely off in his tracks and enabled
Right.
Holiday to pick his pocket there. So. And also, on that play, and I think people are giving him credit, but he deserves more credit. Giannis was in a dead sprint heading back. He was
Yep.
behind Holiday and beat him. He was running so fast and he has those long legs. So, Giannis played 41 minutes in this game. He's almost 7 feet tall. He's a huge guy, and he is still dead sprinting at the end of the game. So the out of shape comment by Shannon Sharp, and I know we've talked about this before. I really, that's a perfect example of why that was silly.
I think it's more that he hyperventilates, and it appears to be more early in the game than late in the game. He comes out balls to the wall like from the opening tap, which not many players in the league do, to the point where 6 minutes in, he seems like he's gassed. I think he's so excited to play, and he probably is looking on the court going, man, 10 years ago, I'm selling watches on the streets in Athens, because all these other guys, came through AAU, played college basketball. They're supposed to be here. This guy came from nowhere. It's a little bit different than, say, Tom Brady. At least Tom Brady played at Michigan. I get that he was a 6th-round pick and sat on the bench for the first year, and now he's the greatest quarterback of all time without question. But Giannis came from absolutely nothing. I mean, just think 10 years ago where he was and today where he is. It's a fascinating story. I think he just gets so amped up that sometimes he gets himself tired. But yeah, I mean, one thing about him, there's total effort on his part. I mean, you never see him just kind of jog back on defense or jog into the offense. He gives you maximum effort.
It's the stuff that you give Embiid crap about, Sap, that
exactly right,
especially at the end of the games. I mean, like, again, that's all you need to see is end of a game, last minute of the game. He had already played 40 minutes in that game, and he is still sprinting his ass off.
Giving you 100% effort.
Not doing that.
No, Embiid would walk up the court and somehow, he's a fantastic player. Don't get me wrong. He's unguardable, but he doesn't have the same work ethic that Giannis has. And again, he went through the college system. He played at Kansas, and then he had the injuries, and he came back. And look, he's a phenomenal player, but this young man is he's easy to root for. He's very easy to root for. He seems incredibly humble. I know people are in love with him because he stayed in Milwaukee. And look, as being the biggest LeBron fan, I think it works any way you want it to work. He chose to stay in Milwaukee, and give the Bucks management a lot of credit. They went out and said, okay, we need one more player, an impact player. So they sent Eric Bledsoe and 4 first-round picks to the Pelicans for Drew Holiday. At that moment, I'm like, man, they paid a lot for him. But you know what? When you're that close, and the Bucks, the last 2 years, they made it to the conference finals 2 years ago. Last year, they got to the second round, but they seemed out of sorts. But they felt they were one player away from being a championship caliber team, and they put all their eggs in the basket of Drew Holiday, and it's paid off. Holiday has been spotty offensively throughout the postseason. He's had some big games against Atlanta when they needed him to have big games, when Giannis wasn't there. And again, in game 5, he was huge, but he's always there on the defensive end. And that's kind of the makeup of the team. So, yeah, I mean, as far as Giannis, you can't help but root for that guy. I mean, even some of the things he was talking about in between games, talking about if you look back, it's your pride. If you look forward, it's your ego. I've got to stay in the moment. Like, and this isn't even his primary language. I mean, English is his second language. And to go out there and talk like that, I was so impressed.
Yeah, I mean, he's a very, very likable guy, and the video was circulating over the past couple days on Twitter. I don't know if you saw it, Sap. I retweeted
Yep.
of him
Yep.
with a 11-year-old girl who's saying,
He's
you're my
awesome.
favorite, and she wrote him like a story and stuff like that. And he got up, he signed the jersey, he got up, he gave her a couple of hugs, he spent some time
Yep.
with her. Like he didn't have to do that. Most
No,
players wouldn't do that. I'm not, the players for the most part are very good with fans, but
they really are.
that's
Yeah.
that's going above and beyond. And he's making hundreds of millions of dollars, and he's not by no reason obligated to do anything like that, but he genuinely, it means something to him, and the relationship he's built with the city of Milwaukee and the fans there genuinely means something to him, and that's why he stayed there. And they've rewarded him by saying, okay, we'll mortgage a lot of our future to get a guy that we think can help put us over the top. And the guy who they traded 4 first-round picks for, Sap, made the key play at the end of a
Yep.
finals game. That's about all you could ask for when you're making that kind of acquisition.
Yeah. No, I mean, he's come through at the right moments, and it's worked well for the Milwaukee Bucks as it has for the Phoenix Suns in this postseason. We both agree if the Lakers and Nets were healthy, that they'd probably be playing right now, and we'd be looking forward to Game 6 of that series. But they weren't healthy; they weren't able to pull through. These teams took advantage of those situations, and here we are. So I know a lot of people have been turned off that there's the lack of the super teams, but it seems like everyone just likes to complain. They complain if there is a super team, and
Right.
now they're complaining there isn't a super team. I've enjoyed the basketball. The first 3 games were nothing great, but the last 2 games have been really exciting. I expect the same thing in Game 6, where I think we're going to have another close game and see if Phoenix can force this to Game 7.
Yeah, and it's just the way the NBA finals go. Typically, you don't get 7 outstanding
No,
games. I mean, that's asking a lot. They're evenly matched teams. Two of the games, there's been 5 games. 2 of the games have been really, really good. 3 of them have been meh. I mean, that's about what you can expect. Maybe it goes the other way, and you have 3 great games and 2 meh. But like, I mean, to expect 7 2-point games, that's
no,
unrealistic.
no. I mean, this isn't going to be the 1991 World Series where the Braves and Twins played 7 one-run games. Like that
Right.
doesn't happen in basketball. I know you've got the Google machine cooked up there. If you can, go to the 1987 NBA Finals. And this is the Lakers and Celtics, and everybody talks about the 80s, how great the 80s were. And I do think it's the greatest decade of basketball, followed by the last 10 years. I think those are the 2 best periods of the NBA. Certainly not the 90s, where I thought it was dull, boring, kind of excruciating to watch basketball when I believe the Utah Jazz scored 58 points in a finals game. Like, I don't find that really that exciting to watch. I think the last 10 years and the 80s are the 2 best decades in the history of the league. Best basketball out there, all-time great players, great organizations, very, very competitive. But if you look at the 87
I got
finals,
it pulled up. Yep.
okay, just go through the scores. Just go through the scores and tell me how that series. Now, I remember I covered that series. There was one close, great game. That was Game 4 at the old Boston Garden, where Magic won it on the junior hook shot. Every other game was pretty much a blowout. Go through the scores.
The Lakers won game 1, 126 to 113, so a 13-point difference there. Game 2, the Lakers shellacked the Celtics 141 to 122, so a 19-point difference there. Game 3 was relatively close. Celtics win 109, 103. I don't know
Mhm.
the mechanisms as to how that
They
happened,
were
if
in
it was
they were
actually
in
that
control
close.
most of that game. Yeah, they were in control most of that game. In fact, I do remember Greg Kite having a big game. Don't ask me why I remember that or how he had a big game. Big game for Greg Kite. But yeah, that okay, that's a fairly close game, but I do remember the Celtics were in pretty good control of that one.
Okay, game 4, as you are correct, 107, 106. The
Mhm.
Lakers win that one. Game 5, Celtics blow out the Lakers 123 to 108, and game 6 was also a relative blowout, 93 to 106. Lakers win the series.
Yeah, so you had 4 pretty much one-sided games, one nail biter and one solid win by, the Celtics in game 3. So, and that's 2 all-time great teams. That's the way it works. This isn't the Tour de France. I mean, if you're getting blown out, sometimes you just say, you know what, the other team's better than us today. We lose the game, we start 0-0 the next game. It's a best of 7. You're going to see some comebacks more so now in the NBA, like you alluded to earlier, Jet, that a 16-point lead, especially in the first quarter, is not a lot in the NBA because of the 3-point shooting and how quick these teams could score. It's like being down 3 or 4 runs in the fourth inning of a baseball game. It's not over. I mean, it's nice
Right.
to have that lead, but it's not over. But the point being that for the most part, NBA Finals, if it's a 7-game series, you're going to have 4 blowouts, 1 comfortable win, and maybe 2 close games. Well, we've had 2 really close games here in games 4 and 5, and I expect the same in game 6.
Yeah, I just people like you said complain if the super teams are there, complain if it's
Right.
not a super team,
Yeah.
complain if it's a close game, complain if it's a blood. It's so you can't take that sort of stuff.
Well, the other
Fully
thing too, Jet,
seriously.
is the other thing, Jet, before you continue on, is this is like we're both movie buffs, and once I get my cataracts out, I will return to being a movie
Been
buff.
saying this for a
But
long time, Sap.
well, it's up to my doctor to not continue changing my dates. September 27th and October 3rd are the 2 dates that my cataracts come out. So by October, I will be back to the movie theater. Although I am going to make it out to see Space Jam 2 next week with my grandniece. She wants to see it, and I do want to see it so that we can talk a little bit about
Probably
it here
best
on the
to see it
podcast.
blurry, anyways. I think is probably the better way.
That's funny. So I think, but it's like we watch the Oscars because we see all the movies, and then all you see on Twitter is everybody bitching about the Oscars who never saw a movie all year.
Right?
Like
Yeah.
they're not movie buffs, but I'm going to tune into the Oscars and sound like an angry old guy and tweet out, "This sucks. Who's this actor? Who's that actress? I didn't see this movie." Then don't watch it.
That's what Trump did for 4 years when he was president about the Oscars. He didn't like any of
Yeah, he didn't like any of the movies. He didn't maybe like Dunkirk, probably not. I didn't like Dunkirk. The overrated what's
very
this,
overrated.
the director?
Christopher Nolan, very overrated.
Oh my God.
I agree.
We both agree on that. Christopher Nolan, talk about a director that's all style over substance. And every time I see one of his movies, the music score drives me nuts. Half the time it sounds like my washing machine is broken, whether it was Dunkirk or any other movie.
I'm not a fan. Not a big fan of Christopher Nolan.
Nope. Give me David Fincher any day of the week.
I agree with you, Sap. Look at us. Look at us agreeing there. I think that you can expect neither David Fincher nor Christopher Nolan when you see Space Jam 2, Sap. And I have not seen it yet, but the reviews have not been kind. The star of Space Jam 2 was at this game, Sap. LeBron with a bottle of tequila in tow under his seat. His brand of tequila, because everybody has their own rum or tequila.
Why not?
Now, I'm assuming, did Skip Bayless do a segment on how LeBron lost Phoenix the game?
Oh, sure. Yeah, exactly. It was his fault that they lost because he was there to cheer on his closest friend in the NBA, and Chris Paul, who, by the way, Chris Paul was at the 2007 finals supporting LeBron. Paul was only in the league, I believe that was his second year, but he had struck up a friendship and they remain great friends to this day, Chris Paul and LeBron James. So LeBron wanted to go there to lend support for Chris Paul. Yeah, so it's LeBron's fault that the Bucks beat the Suns, and it's LeBron's fault that Chris Paul didn't play well in the first 3 quarters. Although he did say he texted Lil Wayne, who's very close to Chris Paul as well. And Lil Wayne was at the game, and Chris Paul feels more comfortable when Lil Wayne's there. So Lil Wayne better get to Milwaukee for game 6. And I know Lil Wayne's also a big Packers fan. That's our connection. So it was all LeBron's fault. The product placement was there. And of course, Skip decided he was going to trash Space Jam 2, which I find it funny when, guys that are 70 or 40 or 55 are trashing a movie that's obviously intended for kids, right? And now everybody between the ages of 35 and 45 is going to trash it because it's LeBron, not Michael Jordan.
That's not fair. I'm 32 and I'm also going to trash it. So you can go a little bit younger than 35.
But you haven't seen it yet. These people haven't seen it, and they're
I made up my mind already.
Yeah, because it's LeBron instead of Michael Jordan. It's going to say, I wasn't aware that Michael Jordan was part Al Pacino and Denzel Washington. I just wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, he gave them acting lessons.
He's
Wayne
a greater
Knight was in it.
than...
You love Seinfeld. Newman was
right.
in
Yep,
the original one. So Bill Murray also. So and
LeBron has Don Cheadle. Don Cheadle's in this one, right?
True.
Don Cheadle
is in this one. That's correct. He is.
Who somehow Skip thinks is the greatest American actor, which I think is ludicrous. I think Don Cheadle's an outstanding actor, but come on.
Okay, well, Skip is doing what he does with LeBron's teams. He's boosting Don Cheadle to make LeBron look worse.
Exactly.
Right?
That's awesome, right? Yeah,
that's what he does with Kyrie and Don Cheadle.
Yeah, that's Don Cheadle's better than apparently Sean Penn or Daniel Day-Lewis not being an American actor.
Don Cheadle carried this movie, and it's LeBron's fault that the movie was
great.
So poor.
That's a good point.
You can take that, Sap. You can take it.
That is a good point. Yeah, and he probably trashed Bill Murray and Wayne Knight back in the day.
Very poor, very bad actors.
Poor performances, and It's amazing. I do want to see it because my grandniece wants to see it. She loves LeBron. She's
You want to see
5.
it because you want to see it. You don't have to just rope your
Yes.
grandniece into
No,
it.
no, no. She wants to see it. I
You
got her the I
equally
Promise
want to see
book.
it.
Well, probably we'll be sitting together like two little kids, which is pretty accurate since I'm a 58-year-old kid. But I know she likes LeBron. I got her the I Promise book for Christmas, which she liked, and she's pushing back on Aaron Rodgers, though. I'm not sure if she likes him or
Oh
not. So
man, how old's your grandniece?
she's 5. She's very precocious, very smart kid.
5, yeah. So she's right in the age range that I think he's looking for, probably for Space Jam, right? That's the
Yeah, oh yeah,
target
she
audience.
can't wait to see it. I showed her the preview. I think she's seen the original. She actually, I mean, girls are different than boys. I mean, that's not exactly breaking news either. But they will sit and watch a movie at 5.
Yeah, I don't
More so
remember how
girls
old I
than
was when I
boys.
first went to the theaters. Probably
Well,
around
you,
5 or
yeah, but you
four,
love
5.
movies, and I think you're going to see that is going to happen. It did pretty well at the box office. I
It
mean,
did very well. It beat
yeah,
Black Widow out.
see that, yeah.
Sap, do you remember what the first movie you ever saw in theaters was? Out of curiosity.
Oh man, let's go back. It might have been Planet of the Apes, one of the sequels back in the early '70s. Um,
That's
I
kind of a
also,
creepy movie for a
it
first. I
is a
mean,
creepy
for a
movie, but
first
again,
person, first movie theater experience.
okay, I'll say this: the one that I really remember, the first movie. I didn't go to a lot of movies as a kid, Jed. I didn't. I didn't start getting into movies till I was like 19. Like even through high school, and I just didn't go. I was so focused on doing sportscasting as I started as a sportscaster at 16. So I'm clearly burnt out at this point.
Right? Yeah.
But I started going to the movies in the very early '80s, and that like obviously De Niro, Pacino, Hoffman, Nicholson. Those were my guys, and then I started watching all the classics and fell in love with obviously The Godfather and
Most people's
Chinatown and all
answer
those
is a
movies.
Disney movie, Sap. Like my
No,
first
no, no, it
movie,
wasn't me.
first
No,
movie I saw in theaters was, I believe, Aladdin. Yours was Planet of the Apes too.
Planet of
That's
the Apes. Or it
perfectly
might have.
normal answer.
Oh yeah, or the Towering Inferno
Oh
in early
yeah, for sure. What
1975.
what 5 year
I
old doesn't like Towering
well,
Inferno?
I think I was 11, so 10 or 11 years old. The Towering Inferno, which had O.J. Simpson in it. But that was one, and also an Albert Finney movie, Scrooge, maybe.
Okay,
Maybe I
no.
saw that in the early '70s. So yeah, that was about it. Then, and I do remember one time when I was visiting Italy in 1976, I went to see King Kong with Jeff Bridges
And
starring
fa-
in that movie.
and what's her name? Who's in it
Jessica
as well?
Lange.
Jessica Lange.
Jessica
That's
Lange,
right. Yep.
who what 13-year-old boy wasn't in love with Jessica Lange?
And still a very very fine
Oh,
actress. Um.
absolutely,
All right.
absolutely.
Well, so you'll have to give me the. You might see Space Jam before I do, but we'll do a full on review when we both see
Yes,
it. For
yes,
the show. Um.
absolutely.
At SAP. So let's talk about this game 6 that could decide the series here. Milwaukee is obviously has the opportunity to win it on their home court, which is
Mhm.
pretty amazing because they have not won a title in 50 years. The building will obviously be raucous. The Bucks are favored by 5 points in this game. Sap, how do you see it?
I like Phoenix in this game. Again, I'm just going with the zigzag theory. I got to think that Phoenix is going to come up big in this game. And again, we've seen so much of Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday that they are up and down. Well, they're both coming off of really up games. I think they come back down to earth a little bit. And I think Phoenix finds a way to win this game. I certainly like them with the points, and I think they'll win it. I picked Phoenix in 7. I'll stick with that. But I think Phoenix early in the game, and again, they got off to a good start in game 4. They're going to have to push the pace a little bit more. It seems like Chris Paul likes to slow it down sometimes, and I think that lets Milwaukee get set up defensively, and that kind of impacts Chris Paul. Chris Paul in the fourth quarter was pushing the pace a little bit, and he was more effective. So hopefully they do that early in the game and continue on with that. So I think Phoenix is going to find a way to win this and get it to game 7, which I think would be fantastic. And it would be Thursday night in Phoenix. The one time the Bucks won the NBA championship, they swept the Washington Bullets in 1971. They won the clincher on the road. So their other championship was clinched on the road. This would be kind of a wild night in Milwaukee if they won, because I mean the Brewers have never won anything, and the Packers obviously have won 4 Super Bowls and 13 league championships, but
In
a lot
Green
of that
Bay.
took a while
Not the
back,
same
right?
thing.
not the same thing. Although I'm pretty sure 99% of the people in Milwaukee are Packers fans, but
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
a different vibe, obviously. But in the city itself, this would be quite momentous if the Bucks are able to win their first title in 50 years at home.
Yeah, I think it would be great, and I've found myself as this series has gone on rooting for the Bucks.
Hmm.
I don't dislike Phoenix by any means. I've just found myself rooting for the Bucks. Maybe it's an Eastern Conference thing,
Could be. Yep.
or just I really like Giannis. And I was getting frustrated with how many people were just bagging on him for no reason, including people even today in our own market on sports radio saying that Jason Tatum's better, and I'm as big of a Celtics honk as there gets, and Jason Tatum can't hold Giannis's jock at this
No.
point in his career.
No.
So I'm kind of rooting for Giannis to shut a lot of people up too. Uh, I had Phoenix winning. I had Milwaukee winning the series in 7, so I'm going to stick with that and take Phoenix in
Yep.
this game. I just had it going the other way around. I thought Phoenix was going to win the last game. Milwaukee would win Game 6 at home, but I'll stick with my initial prediction, which I'm a little disappointed about because I would like Milwaukee to win on their home court. I think that would be really cool. But I do think Phoenix will push this to 7 because I thought from the beginning these teams are very evenly matched, which would lead to a 7th game. And I think for the most part that's proven to be true. Despite this being on the road, I think Phoenix is fully capable of being able to beat Milwaukee, who, to Milwaukee's credit, they've been extremely tough at home all season long. Phoenix, though, has been the best road team in the NBA.
Right.
So I think Phoenix will win. I do think it'll be a close game, though. But I think Phoenix will pull it out by like 4 or 5 points and force a Game 7 that I will pick Milwaukee in. I'll tip my hat already because I said it at the beginning of the series, but I think that will be a tremendous game.
Yeah, it'd be awesome to see a game 7 between two flawed teams. I think the key for Phoenix, obviously Chris Paul and Devin Booker have to come up huge, but it's DeAndre Ayton. He's had an up and down series. I mean, he had 20 and 10 the other night, but it didn't seem like he had a big impact on the game. Like there's times where he puts up decent numbers, but doesn't really force his will onto the game. I think he's going to need to do that, whether it be getting, 16, 17 rebounds or being more effective in the low post and maybe, the pick and roll game with Chris Paul where he's at the rim getting some dunks. Although it's tough to do that against Milwaukee because they're so long and athletic. I mean, at times they'll have Giannis and Brook Lopez on the court together, both excellent rim protectors. Portis and PJ Tucker are good defenders. I mean, they are a real good defensive team. Certainly the Bucks are a better defensive team than the Green Bay Packers. So, I just want to kind of end that on that note.
Yeah, and they have the connection that Aaron Rodgers is a part owner, so maybe
Yes,
he
yes.
appreciates the defense of the team he owns. I saw he's tweeting about it. He's very excited. I'm sure he'll
Yeah,
be in
he's
the
still
house, right?
I,
Tomorrow.
I don't know. I don't know if he'll be there. And I know
Why?
Skip
Because he
Bayless,
get
if he,
booed.
he might get booed at this point because they're 50-50 right now in Wisconsin on Aaron Rodgers. And obviously, if he shows up and they lose, then you know that Skip Bayless is going to blame Aaron Rodgers for the
Yeah,
loss because, Aaron Rodgers is in the house. The only thing is we got to teach Aaron how to use hashtag on Twitter. He put out on his Twitter account one more period and then just hashtag,
that's
so we
good.
got to we got to teach him how to put the hashtag before what you're putting out there. But he's
Just
he's busy. He's got a fiance. He's
just another
playing
thing Tom
golf.
Brady's better at than Aaron Rodgers. Social
It
media.
ain't
Great,
golf. It ain't
much
golf.
better.
Rogers is the far superior golfer.
It's not what I heard from Skip Bayless. I heard that
Yeah, I know, right?
Brady
Yeah,
had
is
scored an
yeah,
18, which was very good.
yes,
He tied the record set by the late Kim Jong Il,
yeah, exactly right. Yeah, and
who also
and
golfed,
Donald Trump and
right? Who
Donald
also
Trump.
golfed in 18. Yeah, Trump also
Yeah,
famously golfed in 18 on his links course in Scotland that he's very upset
yes.
about that people aren't playing the British Open on. Uh, what great golfers these people are who have no professional golf background. It's really remarkable that
Oh,
they're the best at golf. Sap, before we end the show, I do want to talk about something that I texted you last night and has gained a little bit
hmm.
of traction today. Our favorite, I like to call him a bit of a punching bag on this show because we always make fun of him, Kevin Durant. We
Hmm.
compliment his basketball game, but his personality leaves something to be desired. He's making headlines again, talking about the 2017 NBA Finals, which his Golden State Warriors won. This was going on social media, obviously, because everything Kevin Durant does falls back on social media. We're just some random guy. Again, it's not usually famous people. Just some random guy said, Bucks Suns are giving us the best NBA Finals we've seen since 2016. I just hope we get a Game 7. To which Kevin Durant decided to insert himself in the conversation for some God knows why reason. Warriors, Cavs in 2007, and then the greater sign, a lot of greater signs, so saying that was a better finals. The guy responded, unbalanced stacked decks are automatically disqualified with the laughing emoji. Kevin Durant said, perfectly even matchup, fam, top to bottom. I I know that it's the off season, so I don't think Kevin Durant is getting tested for hallucinogenics or anything like this. But Sap, come on, this, and I know this helps your guy LeBron James's argument. This was not an even finals matchup in 2017.
No.
Golden State won 4-1. The teams were not evenly stacked at all, and Golden State blew them out in most of those games.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you can make a case that Golden State team in 2017 is as good a team as we've seen since the Shaq Kobe Lakers, especially in 2001.
67-15.
Right, and they could have been 75-7 if they really wanted to. They almost like cruised through the regular season and still had that great regular season. And then in the postseason, I believe they lost 2 games throughout the postseason. Look, if you match the rosters and you take LeBron and Kevin Durant out of the equation, I still think at that moment that LeBron was slightly better than Kevin Durant. But let's take them out of the equation. Who would you rather have on your team, Steph Curry or Kyrie Irving?
Steph Curry.
Steph Curry.
By a mile.
Okay. By a mile, only because he's just more dependable and he's an adult, and Kyrie by then kind of checked out with the Cavaliers, and then he got traded to the Celtics in the offseason. There were reports that he wasn't even talking to his teammates. So give me Steph Curry, not just as a player, but as a person and as a leader, miles ahead of Kyrie Irving. Klay Thompson and Kevin Love, give me Klay Thompson. Klay Thompson is an elite defender, one of the 5 best perimeter shooters we've ever seen. Kevin Love just never really fit in to Cleveland. Kevin Love appears to me to be a guy who put up a lot of empty calories playing for a bad team in Minnesota. When he got to a good team, the numbers never really were there. So I would take Klay Thompson over Kevin Love comfortably. And then whoever the hell is Cleveland's 4th best player doesn't measure up to Draymond Green, who's always all defensive first team, defensive player of the year candidate, outstanding rebounder, passer.
Andre Iguodala or
Sean Livingston. Right. So, I mean, and look, even JaVale McGee was a guy that would give you 20 quality minutes a night. I mean, he was probably equal to Tristan Thompson at that point. So, yeah, no, I mean, Golden State had the better roster. Now, Cleveland had chances in that series. It was 2-0 Golden State. Look, Golden State was going to win that series. But, if the Cavaliers steal game 3, now it's 2-1, and LeBron, they're up 3. He decides not to take it to the basket where he either gets fouled or lays it in and probably ices the game. Instead, he feeds Kyle Korver in the corner for a corner 3, and Korver misses a shot that he makes 50% of the time. That's when Durant comes down, hits a 3, and then they end up winning. Well, the details aren't quite that clear, but they had a chance to win that game, and they didn't. No, the Golden State roster was better. I mean, I don't. But Kevin Durant always has to justify himself.
They won 16 more games than Cleveland that year.
Right, and
in a tougher conference.
In a tougher conference with a better roster. I mean, it's not close. 18 was even more on the side of Golden State because Cleveland didn't even have Kyrie Irving, right? I mean, and Kevin Love was like dealing with concussion issues. Jeff Green was the 2nd best player on Cleveland. So I don't know what the hell Durant's talking about, but he's kind of like Skip Bayless. He has to pump up the other side to make him seem better. Kevin, you're awesome. We can have this discussion in a week. Are you the best player in the world? Maybe you are. I don't know. You're in the discussion. I mean, now the discussion probably heading into the offseason is going to be LeBron, Durant, and now if Milwaukee wins, you have to put Giannis into that discussion, right? Those are going to be the 3 guys because Kawhi got hurt and seems, a little bit out of it. Steph doesn't play defense like these guys do. So that's going to be the discussion, but it's never enough for him. He needs a hobby, Jet. Like, I don't know if he golfs or whatever. This is his hobby, sitting in his house on his phone, like just interacting on Twitter with people with 17 followers. Like, I don't know. He needs there's a family situation, or I don't know. He needs to do something besides sit in his room and stew about the fact that he's one of the 20 greatest players ever, and he's only moving up on that list. But he's not LeBron. He's not as loved as LeBron. He's not as accomplished as LeBron. That's okay. You're the second best player of this era. Kind of, I guess, live with it.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we've had this discussion endlessly about what his deal is with the social media, but just like this, a lot of his arguments are baseless. This one is even more baseless. Like
Right.
this series was a rout, Sap. I mean, 4-1 is not competitive.
No.
Golden State won game 1, 113-91. That's a blowout. Game 2, 132-113. That's a blowout. Game 3, 118-113. That was relatively close. Cleveland blew out Golden State in game 4, and then Golden State won by 9 in game 5. So most of those games were blowouts,
Right.
and it was a 4-1 series of teams that weren't evenly matched. I just don't know what he's talking about. If you had to put him in like a debate team setting, how would he possibly justify this take? Like, where is the even matchup top to bottom that he's talking about? I just don't know how you could even. Sometimes you want to try to put yourself in somebody else's shoes and say, okay, here's how they see it. I don't know how you can argue the other side here.
No, it's irrational. I mean, if you were to draft these two teams, and again, take LeBron and KD out of the equation, the next three best players might be, well, I think the next two best players would be on Golden State. I mean, you can argue Clay and Kyrie Irving, because Kyrie Irving was just out of it in that series. He was god awful. I think in game 3, he was like 4 of 21 from the floor. If he had had a average game, Cleveland would have won game 3, and maybe it is a closer series. But I would take Steph Curry over him. And at that point, I would take Clay over him because of the defensive end, right? And then, Draymond's as good as Kevin Love, if not better. I mean, so no, those were not equal teams. I mean, the first two series between Golden State and Cleveland were pretty even. Although in the first series back in 2015, Kyrie rips up his knee in game 1.
Right.
And Kevin Love wasn't even there because he got hurt in the first round against the Celtics. So 2015, Golden State was better and they won. 2016 was probably the most even of the 4 series, right? Because Durant wasn't involved. But in 17 and in 18, with Kevin Durant going on that team, no, the rosters were not even.
No, and this was inevitable. Everybody knew that the Warriors were going to win. They were heavy favorites, and they had they not had they were up 3-0, and in game 4 in Cleveland, they just said, whatever. We want to win the title. Basically said we want to win the title on our home court anyways.
Sure.
And so 5 games is not a competitive series in any sense. It's not. So yeah, I don't know what the hell is wrong with the guy. He can't help himself. He can't help himself.
He's also probably watching, and he's, I'm sure, pissed off and saying, man, if I just got some help against Milwaukee, I'd be in the finals playing Phoenix. Maybe Harden would be somewhat healthy by then. Maybe Kyrie would be back. I mean, we both agree that the two best teams when healthy are the Lakers and the Nets. It didn't happen. So you don't see LeBron tweeting out nonsense about, well, if this or that, and maybe I would. The thing about LeBron is he's got a lot of other things going on, to the point where maybe he's starting to get criticized that he has too many other things going on. He's got a movie out. He's got a tequila company. He's got a media company. He's very active politically, which these are the reasons that I love him. He's more than just a basketball player. Kevin Durant, I know he's got some business interest, but I don't think he's as involved as, say, LeBron is. I think he needs to find a hobby or something to kind of occupy his idle time, because doing this doesn't really help himself. He's become like a professional troll, which, it's great for us. It gives us great content. So it makes the NBA fascinating, is the personality of the players.
Yeah, it's just, it's ridiculous. I mean, this one, it makes no sense. The one they had a couple of months ago with when he's feuding with Jackie McMullen, where she didn't actually say anything about it. Like, part of me thinks he's crazy. I don't know, Sap. I really don't understand the guy at all. I like to pride myself in being able to put myself in other people's shoes. I cannot with him, probably because his shoe size is, twice the size of mine.
If he had your shoe size, they would have won that series against Milwaukee. Yeah. That's true. That's where size 17 does not come in handy.
But yeah, this is just another example. And believe me, before the season starts back up and he's back on a basketball court, well, he is playing for Team USA right now, which, by the way, he's doing something. He's not just like sitting, he's still finding time to do this. But by the time he's back in the Nets uniform, he will have had more stupid Twitter fights like this. So this
Oh
will not
yeah,
be the end of it this summer.
and
Or
and
this offseason.
it doesn't take away from the fact this is the greatest score I've ever seen, and a phenomenal player who right now I have in my top 20, and he's only going up. I mean, I think the league's 75th anniversary is coming up, and
Yep.
the league's going to have their 75 greatest players, and I'm sure we're all going to be making all sorts of lists. And I've got Durant in my top 20. I've put him past Barkley and Malone. At some point, I'm going to have to put Yanis in there somewhere, but he's only played 8 years and he's still not a finished product, but he's moving up the rankings as well. But no, this doesn't take away the fact that Kevin Durant is the most unstoppable offensive force I've ever seen, the most varied offensive player that I've ever seen. But off the court, sometimes he does seem to be a bit crazy.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, again, this one I can't make heads or
No,
tails out of Sap, but
no.
that's sort of par for the course with him. All right, well, that's gonna do it for us, Sap, here at the Pick and Roll NBA podcast with Jet and Sap. We are presented by Full Press Coverage. You can find our podcast wherever podcasts are found, or on YouTube at youtube.com/JetStryer. Check out our Twitters at JetStryer or at JohnSap25. For all the latest show information. Sap likes to put out some polls. Those are entertaining and fun, even though he wants more than 4 options on them. Our Space Jam review will be coming soon. We will recap Game 6 of the NBA Finals. If that takes place on Tuesday, our recap will take place on Wednesday. And we might have a new champion by then, Sap. So we will see. And we will talk to you on Wednesday, everybody. Take care.